show, and we are here live once again. I am your roving reporter out on the road, this time from the Windy City of Chicago, and I love it here. It's what a great city. This is such a great city, and it's good to be here. It's good to be with you, and it'll be better to be with you if I'm really with you, which means that you will be calling in, right? And you're gonna call in and share your stories, and we're going to talk about them. But let me give you a number to do that. Excuse me. I have got a little bit of a scratchy throat today from meetings I've been in, so excuse me for that. But let me give the number 844-940-2774. 844-940-2774 is the number to get on the program and share your story. And before we hop into taking some calls, by the way, we do have some lines open because we're right in the beginning of the program, and this is the time for you to sneak in there by calling that number, 844-940-2774. We will talk. Before we get to the thought of the day, reminder, we got upcoming live event. I can't wait to do it. I've been working on it and working on the content, and I'm so excited about this. July 14th, live 2-hour webinar right here, you and me, or me and a group of people at your house or your pad or wherever you do things like this. You know, that would be fun. Get a small group of people to get together and watch this. It's called Restoring Your Brokenness, Joining Faith and Mental Health Together. So what does faith have to do with resolving our brokenness? And our brokenness emotionally, you might have anxiety, depression, addictions, or trauma, or losses, or grief, or all that kind of stuff, or relational brokenness, or even brokenness of dreams, and not quite being able to get your gifts and talents to expressing themselves in, ultimate, what you would call success, whatever that means for you. Well, all of that enters into our life of brokenness. We all have it. And once we normalize having it, then we can also find out that there are some normal ways, some very predictable ways, backed by research and the scriptures, about how we get better. And we're going to be going over all of that stuff. And specifically, I want to clarify, from my perspective, there's so much goofy stuff in the world of church and the world of religion out there. There's no shortage of crazies who tell people crazy things about God and about how to get well and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to talk about some of those myths and some of those destructive, toxic religious things that can be taught, and recovering from those, as well as how good old normal faith, as I believe Jesus talked about it, makes us well. So that's where we're headed. 2 hours, July 14th. Here's how you sign up. Go to www.boundaries.me, www.boundaries.me/restore, the word restore. Go there, sign up, and I will see you there. If you can't watch it live, then you're not going to lose your mental health just by not watching it live, because you can watch it anytime you want after you sign up, but you don't have to sign up for live event too. See that on streaming. All righty. Let's, any more announcements? I don't think. Team, we got any announcements? I'm looking at the screen here. Otherwise, just go to boundaries.me and check out all the stuff we have there. So let's hop into our thought for the day. I was just reviewing some clips. I'm working on an event here in Chicago. And it was interesting. We're talking about all the things that go into high performance and mental health and healthy families, marriages, relationships, everything, and all the different components. And one of them that you hear me talk about a lot, because it is just absolutely the truth, and every bit of research that's ever been done by anybody in this field will tell you the most important thing to growing a healthy human being and sustaining a healthy human being and fixing an unhealthy aspect of our human beingness, repairing, healing, all that. The number one factor, what is it? Castor oil? No. No, 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 no. It's not a dietary supplement. It's not exercise. It is relationship. Relationship. Yeah, you've heard me say it. And that's what the research shows. And I'm sticking by it. Now, here's the deal. I remember one time when I first changed my major to psychology, I took my first psychology class. I'm a junior in college at this point because I changed my major halfway through. And I'm in my first psychology class, right? And I can't wait. This is going to be my chosen profession. I'm on a new path. I, bagged accounting and finance. And I'm headed down this new path. And I'm so excited about this. So I get in the class. And I don't know if it was the first day. I think it was the first day, but early. I think it actually was the first day because it hit me so hard. I remember the professor, he was talking about the field of psychology and clinical psychology and findings and, what social psychology had found, all this kind of stuff. And he's talking about an overview of all of the research that's ever been done on therapy. And all the factors that in a good therapeutic relationship or in a good therapeutic treatment plan or path, what are the curative factors that happen there? And he said, by far, all the research always shows that the most curative factor in therapy is the relationship between the therapist and the client. I thought my heart was going to go through an abyss, it was the most depressing thing I had ever heard, I think, at least in my life of dreams and goals. Why? I just changed my major from accounting and finance. You can go a lot of different directions, and you can go to law school or go towards a CPA or the world of finance and banking or investment banking or private equity. There's a million things I could do with that. I've just changed my major to go into this field of psychology, and the best it's got to offer me is that I'm going to be like a relationship. I'm a rent-a-friend. That's what I'm going to do. Seriously? And then I got to go to graduate school for 5 more years after the next 2 years to learn how to be a rent-a-friend. It was so depressing. So depressing. I thought, I have relationships. I'm in a fraternity. I had a bunch of friends. They're crazier than I am, a lot of them. I'm crazier than a bunch of others too. But we got relationships, but it's not really helping a lot in a lot of different areas. So I just thought, this is a bunch of hooey. Well, until I learned what that actually meant. And that's our point today. Relationship that is curative, informative, and healing, and growing, and all of that stuff is not just any old relationship. There are elements in the relationship that are curative. So we can have friends, we can be married, we can be in a church, you can be in a community, you can be in a work team. You can have relationships, but just because you have relationships doesn't mean that things get better or that things are healed. There are elements within a relationship that get delivered through the relationship. And those are the ones that are healing. So yes, when I go to the doctor and I get hooked up to the IV, that IV is going to be the curative mechanism but it's going to deliver a bunch of medicine to me. See, that's where we get into the science of getting better when we talk about connection. So how do we make connection work in a way that heals us? Well, it requires something very powerful in a certain kind of relationship. And that is, it requires a space and an execution of something called need. Need. Remember, was it Barbara Streisand? People who need people are the luckiest people. I can't sing, but you know what? She was right. Because water and food will pretty much change your life. You can be dying because you don't have water and food, and you get water and food, and you start to get better. You get a baby, you give them water and food, they're going to get better. But what if you're needing the water? What if your thirst mechanism is broken? What if your hunger mechanism is broken? We have a term for that. It's called anorexia. Anorexia actually means without appetite. Now, what if, see, that's the only way we take food and water and oxygen in is by our system being open to need it. See, my system's decided I need to take a breath. And it takes the air in. Why? Because it's identified and aligned with and executed my need. I'm out of air. I got to get some. I need some air. I'm a scuba diver. I know what it's like to be down there and need some air. What if you deny that need? Because maybe the last big breath you took was full of toxic fumes. You know, anorexia is in part, by and large, it's a psychological disorder that goes physiological, because the psychological dynamics of needing to take in relationship from the outside world is so painful that symbolically a person's not going to depend on food because they can't depend on relationship because of a number of things. But one of the reasons is because they've learned that when they need someone, they lose control. They're dominated, they're controlled, they're defined by somebody else or whatever. There's a lot of dynamics that can go into an eating disorder, but one of them, usually, most of the times, and usually some of the times at least, and a lot of the times, is relationship is I can't maintain my boundaries. I can't be in control of myself. I can't be autonomous. Somebody's trying to control me and direct my life. So I get rid of my need for people, and that way I regain control. And one of the ways I regain control is watch the scales. Now, there's a million different ways in which we express a broken need muscle, a broken trust muscle. But I want to submit to you this. To the degree that you desperately need God and the right kinds of other people, and you are embracing that need and executing that need and stepping into that need, and obviously on the other side, that need is met with pure air, with pure food, with pure water, you will get better, you will grow. But it starts with making a place where we can be vulnerable and open and safe to breathe in relationship. Well, first of all, that's fueling. And you go into a need state. If you're feeling lonely, what do you need? You need to connect. So you call a friend, or you go, to your group, or you reach out to your buddy or whatever, say, I'm just not, I'm struggling, I'm not feeling good. And then you connect, and then something magical happens. That need gets met. And then You burp and you hang up and you're good for another however long. Or let's say you're feeling confused and you're not finding clarity, and you call your friend or call your coach or call your therapist or go to your group. You go in there and you're in a need state of confusion, and you connect and get some feedback, some insight, and you go from a need state of being confused, transforming that need state to a place of clarity. Or let's say you're hopeless and you go in and you connect and you find out something, and then you gain a little hope. See, life is about transforming need states by transformational experiences. Worked with a customer service department one time, and we changed their vision statement from when a customer calls, they didn't even have a vision statement, but they understood their job to be, when they're going to call, we're going to fix their problem. Oh, okay. Why don't we use that transformational experience for a bigger transformation than that? And they started thinking, what if we use that moment to transform, help them go in from a frustrated, angry state to being so happy that they got to interact with us? Almost grateful that their thing broke, whatever it was. Because he went from frustrated to grateful. See, that's the transformation. And they had a need. They called in, right? Well, what we've got to do as humans is we have got to align with and acknowledge our needs, step into the space where they can be met, execute them, and have them met and receive them. Let me tell you something, that's not easy. What if you've been broken? What if you've been hurt? What if you've been betrayed? What if you've been judged? Well, that's really hard. Because you know what kicks in then? We got a need-fear dilemma. The more we need and the emptier we feel, the more afraid of rejection we are. So the more you're afraid of rejection or judgment or abandonment or whatever, the less you're going to reach out. So then your need grows. It is a never-ending cycle until it's broken. So what you have to do is find a very, 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 very safe place and begin to express those needs and begin to get connected with. And as we're connected with and experience those transformational moments, I love it when I see people go into like a recovery group or a different kind of group or their friends or whatever, and they're just a mess and they go connect and they come out and feel so much better. That's what connection does. So that's my word for you today. Own these needs and find a good place to get them met. And if you can't do it randomly, you know, a lot of people make really good networks and good friends that are connecting and empathic and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes you can't find that. So go somewhere where somebody actually hangs out a sign and says, we are here for you, like a good support group, or go to Celebrate Recovery, or go find a therapist, or, you know, whatever it is. Sometimes if we're not finding it in our own life, we need to go outside of what we can create to where somebody else has already created it. If I got an infection and I don't have the stuff in my bathroom cabinet to fix it, I got to go to a guy that hangs out a shingle and says, call me doctor. See, they're advertising. They're there for my infection. Well, there are groups of people that are there for your broken trust muscle too. We just have to take a step. Okay, let me give you a number where you can reach out today to us. 844-940-2774 is the number to call to get on the program. Let's go to Sue, who is calling us from the great state of Texas. Sue watches on YouTube. Sue, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Dr. Cloud.
You're welcome.
My question is, my son told me that he's getting a divorce. I have 3 children, and And he said, I don't want you to move out here. I don't want you to help me. And I don't know.
He said he wants you to move and help him, or does not?
No, does not.
And where does move out here? What does that mean? Move out here. Where's here?
Well, where he's living in Arizona.
Oh, he lives in another state. Okay, got it.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you meant out here on this side of town or what that meant.
No, I just thought my plan originally had been to move out there, and now I thought, well, this is an indication that he doesn't want me to be there. Yep. He says that his wife has been real mean to him, and that's why he wants to get a divorce.
And what if they tried to make it unmean?
He says that she yells at the children, yells at him, and he just couldn't take it anymore. So he decided that he was going to get a divorce from her.
So they haven't tried anything to fix it?
As I understand, that they went to counseling, but he felt that the counselors were ganging up on him, that the counselor was siding with the wife rather than him.
Does he have a tendency to? So he feels like his wife's against him. He feels like the counselor's against him. Does he feel this with other people as well?
No. He has a group. I said, well, who's advising you? And he said his friends.
I mean, but in general, does he tend to feel sort of victimized by people or not?
No.
Okay. So it's just the counselor and his wife. So, and his friends were, so he tried counseling one time?
From what I understand, yes, that was their attempt, is to go to counseling, and then he didn't want to go again. So he said at work they'll give him employee assistance. He can go 5 times there, and that they'll also provide a lawyer. So to me, it's like he's just cutting everything off because of the pain he's experiencing in his marriage.
Yeah, sounds like it. So how can I help you? What's the question?
As the mother of an adult, what is the best approach that I should have? Not to give advice, just wait to hear from him.
Yeah, that's a hard one. Depending on how are the channels of communication between the two of you? Does he tend to listen to you and take your advice?
He was working, so I would just say, can you text? And so we were doing a lot of texting. And so I said, well, if you're available, I can talk.
No, but I mean before this. No, I'm talking about before this. I'm trying. See, what happens in situations like this is a situation always falls into a context, right? So something happens, and we have a relationship with this person, and that moment, that event, this divorce, is happening in the context of an ongoing long-term relationship between you and your son. So I'm asking, in general, does he allow you into his issues in life? Does he process them with you? Does he see you as a person that can be helpful to him and giving wisdom? Or does he kind of unplug from you and doesn't want to hear it? And Mama, you always think this, and has that kind of stuff going on?
I think he bonded with his wife, and that she particularly didn't care for me. So then he wouldn't, he would acquiesce to her. So she tended to be the strong one in the marriage. And
okay, so in general, he doesn't seek advice from you. That's what you're saying.
Yes, does not seek advice.
Okay. Well, generally speaking, the patterns that have existed until they're changed is kind of what we can expect is going to happen. So it, from what you're saying, it sounds like he's probably not really open to or looking for a lot of input, at least, from you, right? He's kind of said that. So at that point, see, that doesn't keep you from giving input. It just might not be taken. So I think what you kind of first thing you have to do is sort of realize, okay, I don't know what I can do that's going to be helpful because he's really not listening to me. And I would do a couple of things. One is I would if it were me, I would encourage him. Look, I know you went to counseling. I know this is very painful. I know this has been hard. Um, there's 3 kids involved, and maybe it's really worth it to take another shot at it and try to. I've heard of people that have to go. It's not till the 3rd or 4th counselor that they really find the help that they need, and this is so important. I don't want you continually being in pain either. I'm not saying just go back in there as the way it was, but maybe there's another step you can take to try to save this family. And if there's any way I can be of help to you, then son, let me know. And I think you can say something like that. Another thing that you can do is you can look at the sort of surrounding radar screen around him. And maybe there's other relationships in the extended family or circle that you know about that you could kind of call them and say, hey, would you reach out to Joey? He's going through some stuff. Maybe he'll listen to you. That's another option. So that's probably, and then you can say prayers for him. You can always do that.
Yes. And I asked him where his faith was in all of this. Had he prayed? He said, I'm not doing that anymore. So I think he's even lost his faith, which alarmed me. Because he was raised a Christian.
And who's the group that he's hanging around with that's advising him in this?
I think friends online, friends internet, because during COVID he had to work at home.
I see.
So his support seemed to be online people.
Well, I would encourage him. That's pretty much what you can do. Encourage him and find others if you can in the family to encourage him, and see if that might be helpful. I'm going to gift you. You could send it to him. Get your information. Put you on hold, let you talk to him. And we have a webinar called the Marriage Equation that addresses some of these very difficult dynamics in marriage, and maybe he'll watch it. You never know. It might help him. Thank you for your call. It's a tough situation. Let me go back to giving the numbers here. I think we do have a line open. If you are listening on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook, or if you're listening on the podcast, you're probably getting the show later. But if you're listening live there, right now is the moment that you can call in. 844-940-2774 is the number. 844-940-2774 to get on the program. And let's go to Jody, who's calling us. She listens on YouTube and calling us from Indiana. Jody, welcome to the program.
Hi, Dr. Cloud. It's an honor to meet you, at least hear your voice. But I've also got you on Chromecast, so it's just a lag. But anyways, I'm so happy that I got through.
Oh, well,
and
thank
I hope
you.
do well.
Thank you. Tell me how I can help you.
Well, it has to deal with mainly caregiver burnout. I had called in the other day, and I was listening while you talked to Robert, who was having trouble with his son that had mental issues. And
yeah. I do remember that call.
I learned so much that day that I didn't mind that I didn't get to talk to you then, because it's just like you spoke about anger first as your word of the day, and then the rest of the program was just everything I needed to hear. So, but okay, long story short, I have a 30-year-old son who is severely autistic, nonverbal. My husband, and he left after 18 years, moved out, and so it was just me and him. And it can be very isolating. My friends try really hard to support me, but he is, he can, when he doesn't understand anything, he gets physical with himself. He pounds his face with his fists. And so, and, you know, it's just, I don't blame people for not being able to handle that. I've had 30 years to deal with it, but, and during COVID, it's like, Andrew, my son and I, it's like, that's what we live every single day. So COVID kind of like didn't even faze us because until we got it. But anyways, it's just, sometimes I just feel like there is nobody else out there who, and I know there is because there's not specific, but I can, and since he doesn't talk a lot of times and he stopped singing, that was how he could communicate.
Yeah.
And so it is utter silence in my apartment.
Is he in any kind of treatment right now?
Yeah, he sees a psychiatrist, but mainly for his medication.
But any kind of counseling or any kind of behavioral interventions?
Oh, he has a behavioral therapist, but he's pretty much done all she can do for right now. It's so hard to know what he understands and what he doesn't.
Yeah.
But
okay.
But
so severe, and you're kind of isolated with him in a lot of ways. So tell me how I can help. What is the question?
Well, I guess I'm looking for ways to, because I cannot change my situation, and nor would I, as far as long as God gives me the ability to care for him.
That's
I'm going to do so. I'm 55.
That you care that much.
And
but give me the question. What is the question?
Okay, how can I either reach out to somebody else to help them, or how can I go about talking to someone that will help me through this burnout, to where I just sometimes feel invisible, you know?
Yeah. Well, it is first of all, my heart goes out to you because it compassion fatigue, caregiver fatigue, all of those things, whatever you want to call it, that is a very, very real thing. Nurses,
absolutely.
Nurses have shifts. We don't ask a nurse to be 24/7, 365 days out of the year, because humanly, you're just going to run out. We're finite. We're like a gas tank. We run out of energy. And so we get to sort of the end of what we've got. And so this is pretty normal. I don't know your particular, circumstances in terms of your social circles, but you said you have some friends and they've tried, you said, as much as you can. What I would do is I would sit down and really take as best I can, an inventory. I get a big sheet of paper and I would take an inventory. Yes. I'm sorry?
Oh, I thought you were telling me to do I have a big sheet of paper? So yes, I have plenty of paper.
No. I said what I would do is I'd take a big sheet of paper and draw a full map of all the possible connections that you have that you could reach out to, not necessarily that even have the answer. Maybe they don't have time to come over and help, or, whatever it is. But we're only certain degrees of separation in any given moment from the answer. We're one phone call away, or two relationships away, or three friends away. And sometimes we can get so into kind of get closed into a certain kind of piece of a network that there might be a lot more help available and around us once we get that snowball sort of working. So I would put down everybody from family to extended family to work friends to bosses to churches. I'd look at the churches in the area. I'd look at hospitals that have support groups that they have a lot of times for families of people going through things. I'd look at community mental health centers. I would really begin to scour the whole map. And then I would start to figure out, what the next step is in reaching out, because I'm going to agree with you. As long as you're in this all by yourself, then that compassion fatigue is going to exist. So I wish I had the answer for you, but I do think that in that process, you're more apt to find the answer. Now, the second thing that I would do is I would figure out what the possibilities are for, and I don't know who this is, I don't know who's available, who could come stay with him, who's skilled enough to stay with him or whatever, or where you could kind of, can he stay in his own room for people that can't be around, or some way to increase the making sure he's okay and safe and taken care of, but making sure sometimes that you've got some sort of social interaction and help in relationship, apart from what's going on with him. So that's probably how I'd approach it. And I would talk to my psychiatrist about this and say, look, I'm closed. I'm in a closed circle here, and I need some help, and see if you could get some suggestions from him as well, or her as well. Thank you for your call. It's a tough thing. I know that as we talk about this, there are many of you that are, I was talking to a man yesterday who, just talking about his father that had Alzheimer's for a decade, and his mother was taking care of him in a beautiful way, incredible way. But he's talked about the toll, the toll and the strain of that over time. It's just a very real thing, and nobody's designed to be able to do that all by themselves. And by the way, I'm going to say one more thing about this. Obviously we don't have Jody's address and all of her personal information, but all of you that are listening, there's probably a Jody in your neighborhood, and it may not be autism. It may be somebody's got a terminally ill family member. It may be somebody's a single parent and can't handle everything around them. Whatever it is, what I find is there's so many times when people are walking around with compassion and energy and just nowhere to spend that. They're really willing to give it, but they don't really know, who needs help or whatever. And sometimes we start to take steps to begin to look for who's around me that I could go help. I've got an hour a week or 2 hours a week, or I've got an evening that I could take somebody's kids and let them get out of the house, or I've got an hour that I can make dinner and drop it by. See, it's those kinds of fabrics of the safety net of neighborhoods and communities and friendships. That's what is supposed to hold us together. That's the tribal way in which we were created. And so there's a lot of times we got a Jody around us somewhere. So I would encourage the rest of us to let's open our eyes and find Jody. See how we can lift the burden a little bit. One of my favorite passages out of Galatians 6, it says, bear one another's burdens and thus fulfill the law of Christ. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thought, because what was the law? What does it mean to fulfill the law of Christ? Well, what did he do? When it says bear one another's burdens, what was it that he did? See, a burden, you're not doing somebody's homework for them. I'm going to do something for them. They ought to be doing for themselves. Right under that, the verse says, for each one shall carry their own load. Well, the difference in a load and a burden, a load is sort of like your daily list sort of like your knapsack on your back that you carry around. This is the crap I got to do today. I got to go to work, and I got to take care of my kids, and I got to blah, 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 blah. That's a load. That's normal life. The Bible says if anybody doesn't work, don't let them eat, right? If they're able to work. It's just a regular load. I told my kids when they were very, very young, look, nobody lives here for free. Everybody's got chores. Here's the list of chores. Pick yours. What do you want? Everybody's got to have one. So everybody's got a load. But listen, not everybody has a burden. A burden is something that was too big for us to carry. The law of Christ was bear one of those burdens. He carried a burden that we couldn't carry. The debt of our own failures and sins. When I go to the judge in the heavenly courts, everybody's going to face judgment, okay? And I walk up to that judge and he says, okay, here's your fine. I can't pay it. It can only be paid with God's standard of perfection. It can only be paid by a perfect person. I can't, that's a burden I can't pay for. And so when Jesus said, I will pay it for you. See, he carried a burden that was too big for me to carry. Well, when the scripture says, bear one another's burdens and thus fulfill the law of Christ. In other words, he carried a burden for us that we couldn't pay. And there are people in our families and neighborhoods and all that, they're carrying something in life that's too big for them. A terminal illness, being left as a single parent, poverty, bad things happening. Let's go lift some burdens. And then we listen to Jody and you can kind of see what that can feel like. All righty, let's go back to the phones and talk to Jill, who's calling us from California. And Jill watches on YouTube. Jill, welcome to the program.
Can you hear me?
Barely. You're kind of light. Let's try it again.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Oh, good. Yay!
There you are.
I watch you all the time on YouTube because I work from home. Woo!
Oh, well, I'm glad to be able to keep you company. I hope it's helpful.
You do keep me company. I try to learn while I'm working. I have read many of your books, and they're golden. And I worked with a life coach who was a great help, who took your program, your master's program. I haven't worked with him.
Actually, I don't have a master's program, but they took somebody's.
Well, I think you used to.
No, never did.
At Biola. Anyway.
Oh, I did teach in the business school. I didn't have a program. I taught a course. You're right. For master.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I did. You're right. I did teach a course.
Well, he learned a lot from you. He was great. I haven't worked with him in a while. And I having an issue in several areas of my life, but one of them is like, okay, I'll say it this way. Sometimes I get offended probably more easily than I should, and I hate that in retrospect. I try to do, in situations, I try to do what you would teach, but sometimes I'm get confused, and I'll be very specific now. So my son just got married recently, and I'm a people person. I don't have a lot of issues with people, but I seem to be having an ongoing issue with the other parents, with communication.
You said you're having an ongoing issue with whom?
With the other person, my son's new in-laws, and their communication with me.
Okay, so your son, his wife's parents.
Correct.
Okay. Does your son have issues with them as well?
Not at all. They love my son. My son is super easygoing and very happy-go-lucky and yeah, all that. So,
No, wait a minute. I didn't say did they have issues with him. I said, does he have issues with them?
oh, I'm sorry. No, he does not.
Okay.
And if there are issues, he tends to ignore little flags. I'll be honest. He's kind of rather find peace at all possible arenas. He's a lot like my husband. Okay, so my husband is having issues with the other husband as well.
Okay.
My husband doesn't like some things, and he's very controlling. The new in-laws, the father. So, we weren't greeted at the wedding by them, and was kind of almost rebuffed, ignored, like literally when we walked in.
Why?
And that really
Why?
offended my husband.
Why?
I don't know if it was
That's just rude.
intentional or unintentional, but my husband took it personal, and he's not like that. It's just, and
well, a rebuff is generally not unintentional.
okay, so
ignoring can be unintentional. Somebody's got a bunch of stuff on their plate and their mind, and they just don't think to. You can be unintentionally ignored. It's hard to be unintentionally rebuffed, right?
Okay. Yes. Okay. So I used the wrong word, and I stand corrected. Yes, you're right. And
which one was wrong?
Well, the rebuff. I used the wrong word. I would say.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The gentleman, you're giving away your child to be married. I think there's emotions are high. Walk into the home where the wedding is going to be held, and that father sees you, and instead of walking up and saying welcome to our home and whatever, or just saying hi, they see you, your eyes meet, and they turn and walk to a different part of the house. My husband's offended. It's making what
and
already was some weird.
He never talked to y'all in the whole that whole wedding.
Not till towards the end of the evening.
Yeah,
and now I got him. Go
ahead. That sounds, on the face of things, it just sounds weird. I mean, that's just strange. I mean, if my daughters are getting married and the husband's parents come, I mean, these are my in-laws now, right? What the heck?
Right.
That sounds weird. Okay, so what is the question?
Well, so we just got off to a rocky start with an email sent, and they had high expectations for a lot of money that we were supposed to participate in, but they were going to control the entire wedding, where it was going to be, how many people, every little last detail, how many flowers. They ended up spending $10,000 on flowers for a backyard. I mean, wedding, whatever. That's all cool because it's our son and not our daughter. I get that. I'm not offended by that at all. However,
not offended by what? That they bought a bunch of flowers?
No. That they sent me a novel-long email explaining, and then at the end, the last page of a 3-page email of every detail, and that's how I'm going to participate in the wedding is, number 1, by email, and number 2, oh, by the way, this is the list of things we think you should pay for, and it was quite a lengthy list with all the alcohol and the DJ and the flat part of the flowers and the honeymoon.
Whoa. Just stop. Okay, now I know there's a lot of different things to do, a lot of different ways to do stuff.
Yeah.
But generally, I mean, unless agreed upon in a different way, most of the world would usually, and I know this isn't exactly right, and so don't send me letters about other cultures and all this stuff. But first of all, to assume is weird. But usually the bride's parents traditionally kind of pay for the wedding. I'm not saying they have to, or that's what it's.
No,
but
I totally agree with you.
But then all of a sudden to send you a bill and say you got to do this unilaterally, that just sounds weird to me.
Okay, thank you.
How about we sit down and go to dinner 6 months out and say, hey, our kids are getting married. How would you guys like to do this? We're prepared to do this. What would y'all like to do? That's the way I would approach it.
Okay, so thank you. I'm so glad. The reason why I'm glad is I feel like I go back and forth crazyville in my head. Like I feel really strongly and emotional about the way that certain things have been happening, but then my husband, who also will get upset about certain things, will then tell me my reaction is to whatever. He's more passive, but he walking around the house pissed off about how they're doing all this. So I'm glad at least to hear from a sane human being, that's you, that I'm not crazy in thinking that $9,000.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. First of all, I don't know if I'm sane, but first of all, or secondly, I mean, I'm only hearing one side of this, but I'm just saying to unilaterally decide what another party is expected to do, that does sound a little strange to me. Okay, I'm running up against the clock here. I need a question.
Yes.
What is the question?
Well, the question is, now they just sent me a text message out of the blue 2 weeks later after the wedding saying, I hope you enjoyed the wedding. Everything looked great. You know, we thought it would look great or whatever. I think everybody had fun. We were disappointed. Next sentence. Jim and I are disappointed that you and Mark didn't come up to us at the end and say goodbye so we could chat. It was 108 that day. The wedding was at 4 o'clock. It's now 11 p.m., 10:30 p.m. Everyone's gone. They drove off. I stood right next to her waving goodbye to the couple at 10:30 on their driveway. I turned to say goodbye to her, couldn't find her. Went to get my purse. My husband's in a bad mood because of how he was greeted at the beginning. Mm-hmm. He does not want to say goodbye. I knew it wasn't going to go well, and now I get this text message that they literally said they're disappointed.
Okay, the text message. I just want you to read it. Stop. Just read it to me. The text message said what? We're glad, great party, blah, blah, blah. We're disappointed. What?
Jim and I are disappointed that you didn't say goodbye to us the night of the wedding. So we could chat. I'll try to actually find it, but it's now that I had time to sit down and after a couple of weeks, without saying goodbye. She said, this is the sentence. Jim and I were disappointed you and Mark left the wedding without saying goodbye. We would have loved to have chatted before you left. I had a wedding flower arrangement for you to take home.
Oh, okay.
I gave you.
Was there more? Is there more?
No, yes, there was one more sentence. The last sentence is, I hope you and all your family had a great time. It was so nice meeting all of them, which they didn't because there was no time to meet anybody. And I asked them if I paid for $9,000, and they would not allow me to even invite my brother-in-law and sister-in-law that flew in from 3,000 miles away because there wasn't enough rental places.
All right. So what do you want? What do you want?
How does a sane human being sort of go from here? I want to be friendly.
Okay, stop.
I want them to
stop
sort
for
of
a
like
second.
us.
How does a sane human being go from here? I think sane human beings ask themselves, what do I want the outcome to be?
Right.
Okay. That's what I like to do, right? And Stephen Covey used to say, begin with the end in mind.
Just watched that video of yours.
What's that?
I just watched that video of yours.
Oh,
and
okay.
I feel like I screw it up every time.
Don't worry about it. We all do. So, look, if you want to end up with a good relationship with these people to the extent that that is possible, okay?
Yes. Yep.
When I hear the text as it stands, what I would probably do is I would write back and say, oh, I'm so sorry you felt that way. I'm sorry we missed you too, because I would love to chat and celebrate our kids getting together, and I'd love to visit. So why don't we plan a time to do that?
Okay. I actually already replied, but okay. I'll do that next time.
What did you say? And I got to run because I got to get to a meeting.
It's too long. I decided to explain that my husband can't stand for long periods of time. He can't because of a hip issue. So I needed to get him back to the hotel after an 8-hour wedding. So
that's fine. Sorry. But in other words, I would just acknowledge, oh, sorry you felt that way. My husband's hip was really working. Yeah, wish we had done that. I'd love to get together and chat and review everything. And I would just, in this juncture, right? Y'all are just starting. I would try to, as one of my favorite verses says, in as much as it depends on you, be at peace with everyone. Now, I'm not saying that over the course of the next 40 years, you got to be expectationized to death by these people or ignored to death or whatever. I'm just saying you're in the very beginning. Who knows what's going on? You haven't established a pattern yet and a context to resolve a conflict, especially over text. So I would say, oh, that sounds great. Gosh, I'm so sorry. Let's get together. Let's have dinner. And I would start to build a relationship that builds the soil that maybe you can have those kind of conversations with.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. And Jill, you are a joy to talk to. So I want you to call me back sometime and tell me how this works out. All righty?
Okay.
Did I lose you? Well, we lost Jill. Maybe I lost everybody. Am I still alive?
You're still here.
Okay, we lost Jill. All right, guys. Well, I am, as you can tell, I'm your roving reporter today on the road, and I've got to get to my next event, but I wanted to see you guys today. So always good to talk to you. I want to thank our callers who shared their lives with us. I want to give you one more reminder to sign up for the webinar coming up on July 14th, 2 hours live right here. Restoring Your Brokenness is what it's on. Joining mental health and faith together. So what do they have to do with each other? We're going to look at all the ways in which we're broken, emotional issues we got to work out, relational issues, and all that kind of stuff, but not just from the psychological perspective, which I am a psychologist and I work in that field and believe in so much of how much good psychological stuff we can do, but what does our faith have to do with it? What does spiritual growth have to do with it? What does God have to do with it? Well, I think a lot, and we're going to explore all of that. Here's how you sign up. Go to boundaries.me/restore. Boundaries.me/restore. And while you're there, sign up for that. But while you're there, check out the boundaries.me platform. Go to the search all the courses and look at everything that's there. It's a lot of stuff to find there. Okay. All righty, guys. I am on the road, as you know. I hope to be able to talk to you tomorrow. Not sure yet, but we'll find out. But until then, be well. Okay. See you then. Bye-bye.